Hey guys, Dave with Moniology here. Hope everyone is having a great weekend. This is the weekend market review for April 7th and 8th, 2018. For purposes of brevity, we're just going to take a look at the weekly timeframes for all of our charts this week. So let's have a look at what's going on in the markets. So the 10-year U.S. Treasury right now, it's actually finding some support here around that 27.75, which coincides with the 2.7.5 level here. And no surprise, there's a lot of support here at that 60 level RSI here, and I expect this to hold. We actually last week we said that 2.7 level is going to be pretty strong support, and so far that's proven to be the case. On the one hand, you got the PPO below zero, so that's not a positive development. That tells us that we might find some consolidation here. But if you look at the daily, just looking at the PPO, the daily is curling higher. So would not be surprised to see some positive price action here on the 10-year Treasury. Looking at gold weekly chart, it's been consolidating here above between 1300 and 1350. This is going to break to the upside. I'm very confident of that. The question is when. It's got some stair-step RSI pattern with higher highs rather above that 50 RSI level. So it's only a matter of time till it breaks higher here. Looking at the high yield junk weekly chart here, whereas the markets have been showing some volatility, this is firming up here. This tells me that there might be some upside here in the markets in the next couple weeks, and so why do I say that? There's the junk ETF has double bottomed here in RSI, and it looks like it's found support at the 50-week moving average and wants to move higher. So it needs to break that 50 RSI level. We'll see what happens this week to see if we get some clarity and direction. But PPO is starting to curl higher here a little bit, so curious to find out what takes place. Do we break below this 35 level, or do we break higher above 36? Crude oil weekly here. Now crude oil does not look strong. We thought that this was heading higher towards a break above that 70 level on the weekly, but so far it's kind of been a shooting star candle here on the weekly, and if it cannot hold support at that 60 level, it looks like it might want to move lower here for at least in the short run. PPO is below zero, and with a 4.5% down week last week, it looks like RSI wants to test that 50 level to see if it can find support there. Now in the Nasdaq weekly here, it closed the week down basically 2%. More importantly, closed the week below the 50 on the RSI. If it can't recapture that 50 level on RSI, I expect there to be further downside, at least in the short run, and more volatility here. On the other hand, if it can break back above that, we can have a very strong up week in the market. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Looking back, this 50 on the 50 weekly moving average here has found to be support in weeks and months past. So although we breached it a couple of times, we have basically closed the week above that or shortly thereafter. So we'll see what happens here, but I expect this level to serve as very strong support. Possibly can break through and find support at the 6,500 level. That's a very reasonable price target here in this correction, but it should be interesting to see what happens on the Nasdaq. The Russell Weekly also closed the week below the 50 RSI level, but it found support at the 50-week moving average. So let's see what happens here. If it breaks below it, wouldn't surprise me to knock out some shorts or some longs rather, but 1450 might be a reasonable price target in the intermediate term time frame here. Now, the S&P also closed the week, breached the 50 on the weekly, but closed above it. Now it's struggling to break above the 50, and that's really the reason behind the volatility here. PPO is very weak, so we might see some several weeks of consolidation. We might see further downside. I think 2,500 is a very strong area of support that ultimately will hit at some point. Possible we'll hit it in overnight prices. If that breaches lower, then 2400 is the next level of support. And ultimately, if this correction it does take some more momentum, then ultimately I think that 2200 level is going to be the strongest level of support. But ultimately, this could be just a little bullish flag in this bull run. So let's see what happens here. Ultimately, bulls want to see that 50 level recaptured to the upside, and very soon. A couple more charts here. Taking a look at the US dollar weekly. US dollar is continuing to build RSI momentum here. That's something to keep an eye out for. But from a price standpoint, it needs to break this 92 level for it to be even a discussion. So long it's below 92, this is still in a bearish trajectory. Now, PPO has broken and closed the week above 0, so that's another area to keep an eye out for. Again, we break a 92, this could make for a fairly strong run, actually, possibly towards 96, potentially even a bit higher. Finally, two more charts here. The VIX weekly is looking pretty strong here. It's looking. Does it break that 2250 level? We'll see here. Can it break that 60 level on RSI? That remains to be seen. If it does, expect a lot more volatility in the markets. Alternatively, if it can't hold, it can't recapture the 60 level, then possibly we're moving lower and the markets might actually rally here for a little bit. Finally, world markets, MSCI World Index. These are the world markets excluding U.S. markets. This looks to me like it wants to rally higher, whereas the U.S. markets have got whacked on Friday and had a negative week. The world markets had a positive week here, and again found support at the weekly moving average here, 50 moving average, and it had a hammer pattern. So we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. PPO starting to curl a little bit higher, so keep an eye on for this. This might be close to a bottom in this correction here. Stay tuned. Anyway, guys, sorry about the short video here this week, but stay tuned for next week's videos, and we look forward to making new videos on various different sectors, including precious metals, in the not too distant future. Appreciate your support. Check us out at patreon.com/Moniology. And if you like these videos and want to see more of these videos, please pledge your support. Even $1 a month will go a long way towards helping us reach our $1,000 a month goal. Thanks, and have yourself a great trading and investing week.